Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil, Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper, and TireRack.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everyone to a very special MotorWeek podcast, number 297. I'm John Davis. Joining me today are Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, Jessica Ray, and Alex Kellum, and this is our annual MotorWeek Drivers' Choice Awards program where we're going to detail our picks for this year's awards, including our best of the year. So the way this works is we have 12 categories picked by our staff. These are the cars that we've tested among all the 150 new cars we see every year that we like the best in each distinctive category, categories that consumers actually buy. And once we've picked all of these, at the very end of the show, we're going to let you know what our best of the year award, the top vehicle of all the categories is. And I think it'll probably be a little bit of a surprise for a few folks. But we're going to start really with an area that is not getting as much attention as it used to because of the popularity of SUVs and trucks. But there are still a lot of cars being sold in this country. So this year we've combined our best small car and best family car into one category. Actually, we've narrowed it down. We've broadened it even further from sedan to just car. Our award this year is for best family car, and that opens it up to not only 4 doors but also 5 doors or whatever else comes along. And the winner is the redesigned and very impressive Toyota Prius. So it's a hybrid and everything that the Prius means coming after it, including the already announced Prius Prime plug-in hybrid. So going around the table, who wants to be first? Why did we pick the Prius amongst there haven't been a lot of new sedans and hatchbacks, but there's been a few.
No, I mean, I think there's not too many big players that are still in that arena.
Well, we still have some of the import brands, but you're right. There's the American brands are pretty much out of it. Right.
At all.
And the European brands tend to, with the exception of Volkswagen, which is now out of it too, have been overpriced for a lot of folks.
That's a good point. And I think that's also what the Prius does really well. It's an entry-level hybrid, right? And it did a bunch of things really well. And it improved upon the previous generation in so many ways. Its looks are so much better. Its ride quality is so much better. It has even better fuel economy in the LE trim. So there's just a lot to love. And it's all under $30,000. It starts under $30,000. And I say $30,000 is the new $20,000 these days. So, yeah, I mean, I think they just really knocked it out of the park.
Anyone else?
The Prius has always delivered when it comes to fuel economy. That's not news. I think they could have went a little farther as far as improving that, but they did go way farther when it came to giving it a lot more power, which I think makes it
60% more.
I think makes it a much more usable car for family use because you can pack it full of people and it doesn't feel underpowered at all.
Yeah, I was going to actually question, can we make it much better in terms of fuel economy? Because, now I feel like we are starting to approach the limits of, hybrid powertrains, right?
50 to 60
because now we're going to have to continue with the internal combustion end of it, make those more efficient, and then the battery technology where it is now, it seems like the next move is to plug-in hybrid to really get
the prime,
the overall exactly, which eventually we will have. But just from that aside, the Prius just looks You didn't think you would ever say that Prius is
was
stunning.
Attractive?
Oh my God! It looks great. Who would have thought they would ever say that about a Prius?
Yeah, and back to the whole hybrid thing. I think with Toyota really harping on hybrids still, which I think is a great thing. This is an excellent show of force for them. But yeah, with the looks, it looks sleek. It's cool. I think the only thing that's not going to sell is the all those bumper stickers people buy that say, "Hey, nice Prius" or "Cool Prius." It said no one. That's the only thing that's not going to sell anymore.
Now that you can get all-wheel drive with it, I wonder if they're thinking that maybe they'll think about doing some kind of a pseudo SUV off that again someday. But anyway, let's move on to Best Luxury Car, and this is a repeat winner from last year, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. So why do you think that we picked it again?
Because it's just like the flagship of flagships.
Yeah.
I was going to say it was a pretty easy pick, I think.
I think it was almost unanimous, if not unanimous.
The technology in it, even a year after it came out, is still top of the line. You don't see anything that really matches it. Mercedes seems to be paving the way in that category across the board. And like when we were voting, we just went down a list of everything that's new, and nobody can make a really good argument for anything but the S-Class.
Yeah, I think part of it is a lot of the luxury brands are going all in on the EVs. Like we drove a couple EVs that certainly would have competed, but we didn't want to elect to vote for an EV in this category.
Well, they didn't really beat the S-Class for what it purports to be, which is this quintessential, just superior four-door sedan that has been recognized as a market leader for decades and still is.
Yeah. And I mean, there is like an EV equivalent to the S-Class, right? The EQS. But there are some things that the S-Class does a little bit better.
Well, and we also remarked in our road test how the interior wasn't quite up to what the S-Class image is, and reality, I should say. So, S-Class, Mercedes, again, a repeat winner for our Driver's Choice Awards Best Luxury Car. Best Sports Sedan. This one kind of came out of, I wouldn't say it caught us blind, but a year ago, I don't think we expected it. And that's the rebirth of the Acura Integra, Best Sports Sedan for 2023. How come?
Because this is Driver's Choice Awards, and I think we all took driving heavily into account in this one. When the news broke about the Integra a while back, I think when we saw the pictures, a lot of us were sort of underwhelmed. And
we were hoping for a two-door, and of course it's a four-door.
Right, but then we got in and drove it. We're like, oh, that's right. We drive these cars, and it drove fantastically. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, we had the manual trans, great shifter, it feels great. I was impressed with it. I think they did a good job keeping the price reasonable as well.
I mean, some people have criticized it for basically being a fancy Civic, but I don't think that's a bad thing in that it uses great roots. But, to me, it looks so much different, especially on the outside, and it drives like a different car. Whether it's the tuning or whatever, it just seems more sophisticated.
Yeah, and excellent value. I mean, if you want the manual, you have to get the top of the line, which is A-Spec with Tech Pack. But that's still only, I think, like 36 starting, give or take. I mean, pretty good value.
Yeah, especially when the average transaction price for all new vehicles is upper 40s these days.
Yeah, and that was the original Integra formula. It was just a tarted up Civic, a lot more fun to drive. Yeah. So that's not new.
Best Sport Coupe, Nissan Z. Finally, after all these years of seeing the next generation Z, it has arrived. Is that another case of maybe expecting less and then being more impressed than you were prepared to be? I mean, this, we knew it was going to have a silhouette that was very reminiscent of the original 240Z, but it's so much more than that.
It looked cool, and that engine is awesome. I didn't get all that time in it, so I'll yield to someone else.
400 horsepower, though, right out of the box. No upgrades necessary.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, it's a nostalgia-laden ride. I was saying to people, I've driven a lot of cars with MotorWeek, even just in like the year and a half I've been here, but that is the car I got the most looks from. They were doing that like debate out front of the studio that day, and like people were doing all these chants, and then they stopped, and they're like, hey, what was that?
Oh, yeah, there was like actual protests happening that day,
yeah.
There was a lot on people's minds, so the fact that they stopped and looked.
The Z was literally a showstopper. It was,
that's cool.
It's got the looks. I mean, you get in it, you feel like you're in a Datsun. I mean, it's just cool, and the engine's great. It's fun to drive, and plus you get the manual, and it's like starts at 40. So not bad.
The price is 40 for 400 horsepower. I mean, that's a really good deal.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you want to get the performance one, it does up the price a bit, but it's still, I mean, it's a good deal.
Yeah. Then you can like no lift shift and all kinds of cool stuff with that. Cool like it's an actual mode within sport mode or something like that. I forget how you got into it, but I was in it and it was cool.
And the same engine, all across the board. It's not like the Supra where you got to upgrade to the really cool engine.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's a good
Easy
point.
on you.
Yeah.
Speaking of performance, best performance car. And here's a car that I remember when it came in, everybody also just was almost awestruck. The Audi RS3. Small but mighty.
It's a really wicked little thing. I feel like every Audi RS model we get, like wicked is always the term that comes to my mind. It's small, just super powerful. We took it to the racetrack. Jess got some time in it too, so
It was fun. It was fun.
it was a good day at the racetrack when you can take something like that. Traditionally the RS3 or the S3 A3 is front wheel drive. Now you have all wheel drive, which can send a lot of the power to the rear wheels, so that's always fun. Which basically just equals a lot more control on the racetrack.
And it has that 5-cylinder engine in it, which is really
Gnarly sounding
really
engine.
cool.
Yeah, when we were voting, I wasn't so sure I was on board with this pick, but then, looking into it, putting all this stuff together, it really was an impressive piece. It's certainly worthy of it.
Yeah, and I mean I think it starts at like 60,000, which I know that price tag does seem like that's a lot of money, but when you drive it, I mean, you get it.
Yeah, the amount of performance.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
you
on and
have
off
Audi
the track.
luxury. It's a really good package.
So let's move on to one of the categories that so many people are interested in, and that's utility vehicles. And we have actually 4 awards in utilities. We're going to start with the best small utility. And this was kind of a sleeper. We heard about it. We knew it was coming, but we were not prepared to be as impressed as we were. And that's the Mazda CX-50, the successor eventually to the CX-5.
I think we all have had the conversation in the office, what? Why the 50? Why the 30? Why now the 90?
Yeah.
And then we got in and we're like, oh, this is Mazda was already going upscale, and now with their the O models behind the numbers, they go to another level. There's a Mazda, it seems like every single year in our Driver's Choice Awards.
Yeah. And because one of their whole things is to build vehicles that are entertaining to drive.
Always drive
That's
well.
their mantra.
I did the first drive for this almost a year ago, and I remember driving it and just being super impressed. And the other thing is not just the value, but the range of values. You can get a non-turbo model. It starts in the high 20s. And then even stepping up to the top dog, turbocharged, everything you want in it, it's low 40s. To me, that's just great value, and there's something kind of for everybody in there.
Nothing I can add to that. Well said.
I have a question for you real quick before we move on. Is it me or do you agree that Mazda seems to be taking a lot of the new tech inside vehicles and making it very simple to use for most people? They're not always up there with the biggest touchscreen, but they do still use a central controller. But I find their cars pretty easy to get accustomed to. Is that?
I would have to agree. I mean, I think they've been like that for a while, but I also think because they know who's buying their cars. People who want a nice looking car that drives well for a good price, they'll go and they'll buy a Mazda. I mean, my dad bought a Mazda for that exact reason. And so I think, they're not out there to be the flashiest. They're out there to just sell good cars.
It does seem like every year we've got, at least recently, we've had a Jeep in the awards, and actually we've got more than one this year. But let's start with Best Midsize Utility, Jeep Grand Cherokee. All right, the latest generation Cherokee is not all new this year, but there's a reason that we gave it our award, and that is...
Oh,
It's a 4xe.
that's one of the reasons.
That was sort of I'm looking at my notes from when we did the
Plug-in
voting, and
hybrid.
everybody said the plug-in hybrid just sort of capped off the range.
Yeah, I mean, the Grand Cherokee has gotten pricey, but it still feels like it's worth the money. I mean, it doesn't feel cheap. It drives awesome. The 4xe, I think it is amazing powertrain, which can take Jeep owners even further.
And the addition of the L,
Yes. Although the L did win,
That
it
was
won
last
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, this is a repeat winner.
kind of.
But it wanted a different class. But when you looked at the entire Jeep lineup and the capabilities of the vehicles, plus the style, the interiors that Jeep is doing are just out of the park. It was like that was if not a unanimous winner of our staff, it was pretty close to being that way. So.
Yeah, I think all over their new design inside and out is incredibly attractive. I know I've seen so many new Grand Cherokees on the road. But we should specify this is kind of more toward the 2-row.
Yes, because you can't get the 4xe and the 3-row yet. Yeah. But speaking of 3-row utilities, best large utility, which the Grand Cherokee L won last year, Hyundai Palisade. Now, this is a redo, a reface, a rework, mid-cycle update of a vehicle that we've liked for a long time. But why do you think that, it's usually when we pick a winner of a Driver's Choice Awards, it's an all-new vehicle, and this isn't, but it does have substantial updates. What was behind that, you think?
I think it's just still a lot of bang for your buck with this vehicle, its capabilities.
Much more luxurious than people expect for a Hyundai, I think.
Yes, I think inside and out, it didn't see a ton of tweaks on the outside, but all of the new fascia it sees.
There's a lot of new tech inside.
Yeah, it all is good. All very good improvements that I think, at least in my mind, has kind of brought the Palisade kind of to the forefront over, say, the Telluride. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons I think we chose it.
I think that was like one of the toughest ones that we had when we were voting. I think it took us forever. But, the Palisade delivers for sure, especially when you mentioned the tech. That a lot of stuff kind of trickled over from the Genesis side more than the rest of the Hyundai lineup. So, good choice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for a while it was kind of the stepchild to the Kia, but now it's come into its own, and then from what I understand, the dealers can't keep them on the lots.
I was going to say, like in regards to that, the Telluride, everybody was hearing about the Telluride, the Telluride. Then you couldn't get them.
Right.
And so people were like, well, it's the next best thing to that. Oh, the Palisade. And so that's why I think that was almost advantageous for the Palisade's popularity. And, of course, that it's a good product.
Yeah.
Best luxury utility, another Jeep. The Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Lots of reasons for this.
Grand Wagoneer L specifically,
and
right?
Grand Wagoneer.
Just Grand Wagoneer.
Grand Wagoneer L.
Yeah, I think it was the L, yeah.
Well, I think they all they're very similar, and they all have the same powertrain. I think one of the biggest things was the powertrain.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say
The L
comes with
the L has the new engine.
Turbo 6.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's available in the standard Grand Wagoneer as well. It's
It's in this day and age when everybody is talking about a new electrified vehicle for the Stellantis folks to spend probably $5 billion engineering a new inline 6-cylinder engine that really is only going to be in trucks or big SUVs. That's astounding. And, of course, now that they've done it, General Motors is doing the same thing for Chevrolet and GMC. So the engine just took everybody by storm because it's not only powerful, but it's more efficient than anything they had before in its class. But the reason we picked the Wagoneer L was more than that.
Yeah, just a big suburban-sized vehicle, packed full of luxury, screens everywhere, nice leather, good materials all over the place.
Yeah, and with the new powertrain, it's very quiet. It's like that really nice highway cruiser that you're looking for, because that's what they're going to be doing for a majority of the time. And obviously GM has kind of led the pack in that category for a very, very, very long time, and I think this is definitely a worthy adversary to them.
It's beautiful inside. I mean,
supremely comfortable, supremely luxurious. And I don't think this wouldn't be the case a couple of years ago, but if you're somebody who's accustomed to the finer things in life and you go into a Jeep dealership and try out one of these, I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. I really think it's everything that Jeep said the Grand Wagoneer was going to be. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
It's probably a stretch, but when I got in it, I didn't think like Cadillac Escalade. I thought Range Rover.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think it leans if you put that on the scale. And also, back to the whole engine thing. I mean, the straight 6 engine is just making a comeback everywhere.
Yeah.
Mercedes is doing it.
Mazda?
Mazda, the CX-90. Everybody wants an inline.
It's great for torque.
Yeah.
It's great for torque,
I
and
think
it's
it
the
makes
quintessential truck engine.
Just saying, I think it just makes a lot of sense where we are right now with emissions and, wanting smaller engines in trucks.
But not wanting to give up the power.
Exactly, yes.
Best small truck, and this is another combination. Last year we had best compact truck and best midsize truck. We've combined those two into best small truck, but the winner is a repeat, and that's the Ford Maverick. And I'm going to let Jessica start because she actually has one on order.
I do have a Maverick on order.
And no influence on the awarding at all. Yeah,
she has a special interest.
So now we're going to talk about Mavericks all the time instead of Wranglers.
No, I mean, it's just a truck that most truck owners need. Really.
Yeah, it's not huge, but you don't need a big truck to run to the big box store on the weekends.
No, I mean, it's built on the unibody Escape chassis. It's got the standard hybrid powertrain with the optional EcoBoost, and while the hybrid can get you up to 40 miles per gallon, I think, the EcoBoost is no slouch. That'll get you over 30, definitely. It's just a really solid vehicle. It's an entry-level model, so we're talking like price point. It starts over $20,000, but even optioned out, I mean, you're looking at somewhere between $35,000. Now
it's still the least expensive Ford brand vehicle you can buy.
And now I say these,
which blows your mind when you figure next up is what, the EcoSport or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
The one, of course, downside to the Maverick being they're really, really difficult to get. I've had mine on order since September, and I have no idea when I'm going to get it. But it's just seriously a great little vehicle if you can get your hands on one.
Yeah, my neighborhood's full of them already. There's like 3 or 4 people. Yeah, they got them.
I didn't think they were that hard to get. My neighbors had 2 of them already. I'm not sure who you ordered.
The EcoBoosts are easy. The EcoBoosts are really I would say easy to get.
The hybrids hard.
The hybrids are like those are the ones that are still going for like over 10,000 MSRP. And even more used.
We won't even talk about that.
Yeah, but doesn't negate that it's still a very good product.
Absolutely.
And then we step up to best full-size truck, and for the 3rd year in a row, and I can't even imagine how many years running how many years over our Driver's Choice Awards history it's won, but the Ford F-Series. And again, it's a case of adding a new electrified model, and that is the Lightning, but again, it's so much more than that as well.
Yeah, the Lightning was a big part of it last year. The big part this year was the Raptor R, finally putting the V8.
And also the full size, the heavy duty.
Heavy
duties are all new.
Yeah.
Everything, whether it's payload, towing, I'm probably cup holder size is best in class. That's how Ford does it.
You know, I'm not now that we've set this precedent of 3 years in running. I'm not sure what out there on the landscape is going to dethrone them. But I guess it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. Now, this year, because of the emergence of more and more EVs, and in some cases more affordable EVs, we expanded our best EV category to 4 vehicles. And I'm going to take them one at a time. And the first one is kind of an interesting choice because it really does do what we kept wanting to see, which was an electrified sedan that meets all of the requirements of a German compact sports sedan. In this case, it's the BMW i4, an amazingly competent vehicle.
Yeah, it just felt like an electric 3 Series from back in the day. Didn't feel like some kind of just electric car. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, they definitely translated the driving experience. It was a BMW,
and that is tough. I mean, I can't even tell you everything that they did, but it was just you felt it the moment you drove it.
Yeah, I think not even the iX could say that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like the i4 is where they really dialed in that BMW-ness, and the performance is really staggering. That it can, I think it's more performance packed than an M3 at this point, at least from acceleration numbers wise. You probably couldn't make it around a racetrack as fast, but if you're talking like straight line acceleration and like daily performance attributes, it goes to the i4 now.
everywhere I went with it, people came up and almost no one recognized that it was an electric sedan. They just thought it was one of the best looking BMW sedans they'd seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's like if you look at the physical differences of it, it's very hard to tell it from just a typical 4 Series.
To me, it has the room inside of a 5, so it's you can't call it a compact anymore, not really. Our next winner is a vehicle that's been a long time coming, and I think it deserves a good shout out from us, and that's the Cadillac Lyriq, Cadillac's first all-electric SUV and the first one down their path of eventually becoming an all-electric brand. I've been looking at the evolution of this art and science styling since it began, 20-some, 30 years ago, whatever it is. And this is by far the best looking iteration they've done of it yet, at least on an SUV, but I think totally. But the Lyriq stood out. It's a gorgeous vehicle, and we've got so many people that want to hear in our facility that want to see it and drive it.
Yeah, I think I probably had more drive time in that. To me, it was just for like half the price of an Escalade, you got a modern, very luxurious EV with like 300 miles of range. And it's everything they said it would be. Let's see where they go with it next. But I still are they even delivering them yet?
I think they're delivering the 2-wheel drive, but the all-wheel drive has been delayed till
I think
later
I've
this
seen
year.
pictures of some of them making their way
to be a slow roll
on the road.
That seems to be a thing with most of the EVs. Other than Tesla, they've all been coming out in drips and drabs, I think, which is unfortunate because there is a huge market for this particular vehicle.
I think they're sold out on pre-orders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For
They were
2023 model year, I think.
Yeah. I think 22, the first ones, and then 23s are all sold out.
Yeah.
But just an amazing amount of luxury for the price, for sure. Way more luxurious inside than an Escalade or really anything else they have right now.
And it uses the new Ultium battery, which is scalable to the different vehicle. And that, of course, made its debut on our next winner, which is the GMC Hummer EV pickup truck. And we could say the EV Hummer SUV, but we haven't driven that yet. GMC Hummer EV pickup. Would I be stretching it to say one of the most impressive vehicles we've ever driven?
Certainly unlike anything.
I think it's kind of out of this world a little bit. Yeah. It just is. Everything about it is massive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the technology in it, its literal size.
But it didn't feel that way to drive it.
No.
Maybe that was the 4-wheel
Not
drive.
to drive it, maybe to park it.
Robinson's well aware of my feelings on this. I think the day I drove it, I came back in. It was just like talking to anybody who would listen to me. I was so
like a boy.
If it were up to me, I would have given it every single award because that's how much I liked it. And I get there's like this whole stigma around Hummers, the old one especially, and I think now still you could say because it's just so it is so big and unnecessary as a vehicle on public roads. Right. But I would argue that like a 911 Turbo is unnecessary on public roads if you want to make that argument. Being able to drive something of that size so easily around through downtown traffic and through parking lots and the power from, just like in any situation, it's just, I was thoroughly blown away by this thing and probably more so than just about any car I drove this year.
Yeah, as far as out there as it was with like the Watts to Freedoms and the crab walk and the extract mode.
And even just like the screen graphics are just crazy.
Yeah. It was all like a recipe for failure if like even one of those things didn't work up to expectations, but everything just everything above and beyond what I was expecting out of it for sure.
Pretty impressive. Our fourth EV for Best EV this year is the Kia EV6. Not the first affordable all-electric vehicle from Kia, but I think easily the best, and a vehicle that I think also just impressed all of us just way beyond our expectations.
I think it's another EV that translates the driving experience really well. Like, it just was so fun to drive. It felt very comfortable. It didn't feel heavy like I don't know, some
like
other
a
EVs.
9,000 pound.
Yeah, it didn't feel heavy. You don't feel the battery sort of dragging you down. No, just like a really fun vehicle to drive. I had so much fun in it.
Yeah, I would say it's one of those total package things where it doesn't do anything like maybe the best, but it just does everything really, really great. And you can actually go to almost any Kia dealer, and there's one sitting there waiting for you to buy right now.
You can still buy one if you want.
Unlike a lot of these things like we just talked about earlier, still paused.
Yeah, it's the styling, it's the technology, it's the charging on the 800-volt architecture. It's the fact that you can go from a base level and then you can move up to the mid-grade and then you can go all the way up to the GT, not the GT line.
Right, but the GT
full
at the top.
which is like a performance SUV.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just like impressive all the way across the board.
It's attractive. And if you've been in any other recent Kia, when you get in it, yeah, it's a little more modernistic, but the controls basically work the same. So I found the transition from anything else Kia or Hyundai makes into it very simple and very straightforward, which maybe is one of the reasons for our best of the year. We also picked, drum roll please, a little louder, the Kia EV6. Now, to all of you out there that just fell over backwards, all the reasons we said, plus the fact that it is affordable for the money, which is still not cheap, but it's cheap for modern EVs, you get an awful lot of vehicle. And one that will perform and one that it turns heads,
Yeah, not our first EV to win Best of the Year either, so that's
it's not
true.
Uncharted territory. But
I think that's interesting. When the Mach-E won it, we had set some new territory for our awards, so this is not the first. But I think the Kia EV ups everything we said about the Mach-E quite a bit.
We'll probably get less hate mail.
Yeah,
One than we did
because it doesn't have Mustang in the name.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got separate hate mail for them.
Like we also pick it kind of like what it stands for in the industry,
right?
And what it stands for. Like it's like this is Kia's first dedicated EV
chassis, right?
And for them to do this on their first attempt at a real dedicated EV. And impress so much. I mean, it's a major accomplishment for them, and then for anybody in the industry, really.
Any other comments? So that's our 2020. Oh, you want to? Sorry, I didn't give you a chance.
I was just saying, I think one of the more important parts of it is the fact that it has the 800-volt architecture.
That's a big
which
deal.
You
but
don't
explain that now. Explain what that really
Full
means.
disclosure.
Yeah.
I don't know all the engineering behind it, but essentially it's future proof. That's what I tell people.
It gives you the ability to, as they increase the output of the chargers, it will be able to charge up in even less time.
So if you are stopping at a public charger and there's a 150 kilowatt charger and then there's a 350 kilowatt charger, you can stop at the 350 kilowatt charger and plug in and potentially get up to, I don't think right now its capacity is 350, or maybe somewhere over 200.
Yeah. It's like 220 minutes or something like that, isn't it?
It's 200.
200 miles.
200 miles. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. 200. Okay.
Yeah. That's not fast at all.
No, it's like 200 miles of range in
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
18,
It's like 80%. It can get up from 10 to 80 in about 22 minutes,
Something like
I believe,
that, yeah.
which is really impressive.
Really fast.
Really fast. So I think that's a really important thing to mention.
And the reason this discussion matters is that if EVs are ever going to grow beyond being basically commuter cars and short distance vehicles to long distance vehicles, that time to charge is going to be very, very important to get all the folks on board that are not on board with EVs at this point. Well, thanks, everyone. That is our 2023 MotorWeek Drivers' Choice Awards. Now, everybody out there, we did produce an award ceremony for our 2023 MotorWeek Drivers' Choice Awards. It's up now, and I'm going to let Jessica fill you in on the details.
Yeah, if you want to watch the full ceremony, you can visit our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/MotorWeek, or just go in the search bar on YouTube and find MotorWeek. And it will be our 2023 MotorWeek Driver's Choice Best of the Year reveal.
Of the Year. This will be for the actual award ceremony for the EV6.
It will also be on our website at motorweek.org, and you'll see it underneath the reviews tab. There's a whole page dedicated to the Driver's Choice Awards.
And this podcast and the ceremony went up on February the 9th at noon.
Yep.
And the following weekend is when the entire MotorWeek Driver's Choice Awards special will be on public television stations around the country. Consult our website, motorweek.org, for details. And shortly after that, it will be on our MAV TV partner, Eastern.
Yeah, so don't miss it.
And it's Jessica and Greg here at the table had a lot to do with producing this particular ceremony. We think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And of course, that following weekend, it will debut on MotorWeek, the television series, on all your public TV stations across the country. And shortly after that, over at our MAV TV partner.
Yep.
Jessica even risked great injury while we were doing this because I flew the drone probably inches from her face.
Oh, wow.
I was up on a lift, and then Greg
We literally put our lives on the line for this. For this.
But when you see it, I think you'll agree that it was
I'll
worth
share a
it.
picture on our Twitter, when we're done. When I can finally show what we were working with, because everything's embargoed right now.
Noon on February 9th at our YouTube channel. Okay, rant and rave. Shoot.
I mean, I have one,
Well,
but
that's,
I
you
didn't
were
know
the
if
one
anyone else
that
had
brought it up. That
Okay.
Unleash.
Okay, so I think I'm of the opinion right now that it should be a law that your headlights must be on if you are driving on a public road. I'm done with daytime running lights. I'm done with
All times. So actual headlights.
your headlights
at all
on.
times.
Even if it's full sun, I think your headlights should be on. There's too many times where I'm driving at dusk or I'm driving in the rain, and people either don't have their headlights on at all, or they just have their daytime running lights, which is sometimes okay, but a lot of times not okay, because your daytime running lights don't necessarily mean that your tail lights are on.
No, they're not on. It's
I
gotta be
can
headlights.
I was gonna say that's what I didn't think. So yeah, I think headlights should just be on all the time.
To be fair, daytime runners can be super bright, and even if you're in a low light situation, you might think your headlights are on.
That I have come across those situations in press cars before, where they're so bright that I'm like, oh, my headlights are on, and then I get out of the car and my headlights were not on.
And then
I
you're
think
the
it's the
jerk.
tail light.
Everybody's complaining about you.
So you're saying it should
Well,
be
this happened once. This happened to
You're
me
saying
one
you shouldn't
time.
even have the option.
You're saying it should be a law for the manufacturers to have them on, or a law
No,
for
I
people
think
to turn them on?
I think you know how
What
it's
should the law be?
the law that that your headlights are supposed to be on while you're driving. I think it's in the rain.
Yeah.
I think your headlights should just, if you're on a public road, your headlights should be on.
What about fog lights? Fog lights are kind of an annoying feature when there's no fog out and somebody's got their fog lights on.
I sometimes will turn my fog lights on when it's not foggy.
Sassy. I don't like
But
that.
I have really
More lights
weak.
the better, as far as
I have
Sherry's
really
concerned.
weak halogen headlights on my Jeep. There's not a lot of span. Anyway, I just
I just
think
stick a flashlight out the window.
Yeah.
true. That's what I
All
should.
my cars.
Honestly,
Just get a light bar.
I should get. Yeah, I should get a light bar. Just kidding. I don't like
Oh,
I don't like light bars. I don't like light bars. I just think people should just be a little smarter when they use their headlights. And if we have to make it a law that they use them all the time, I'm for it. Anyway, that was my rant. I don't think John likes it.
Well, no, I like the idea of daytime running lights, but I happen
understand my
I happen to
concern?
think that if daytime running lights are on, your tail lights should be on too.
I
Then
I
they
can
would
agree
always
with
be
that.
on.
Yeah, well,
In
they
theory,
would,
unless you
but it
have
would
them
be
off.
like running around with, you still aren't full power on your headlights. I find not having, because a lot of people run around at night with only, and they don't turn their headlights on, yet they've got some illumination in front of them from the daytime runners, so they don't think about turning their headlights on, and they've got no tail lights.
I think. Yeah. There you go.
I'm going to hear what
Well,
Robinson
I was
says
going to say,
first.
usually the gauge lights don't come on if you don't have your
but a
headlights
lot
on.
of- how many
so
test
that
cars
means
you
you're
get
not
in that-
looking at the
Right.
gauges when you're driving to know that you don't have headlights
If
on.
we're trying to get this standardized, it's not even standardized to have the icon in the gauges to tell you if your headlights are on.
That's true.
Volkswagen doesn't do that, so you don't know if they're on or not unless you actually pay attention to what you're seeing in front of you.
We get into a lot of test cars around here that have all the gauge lights turned down or very low.
I mean, so I think, maybe my radical view being that headlights need to be on all the time. But I think Greg has a point, like things aren't standardized when it comes to lights, and knowing you have your lights on, and if there was, I think that would be very helpful. Because I do think a lot of people are just driving around and they don't even realize that their correct lights are not on for the time of day that it is or the conditions that it is.
Do you think that'll change if there's a law that requires them to turn it on?
Well, no, if that were the case, so say, like, we're going way too far.
This is the most discussion of a rant and rave we've had in a long time.
Here, if that were to, let's say the country stepped in and said, all right, every manufacturer has to make sure that the lights are on, which would mean that there's no option any longer for lights other than high beams versus low beams. So, like, really, that would be the.
I mean,
how you would do it.
I have thought about that too.
I don't feel like you should put the onus on the driver. I think like it should be on the manufacturer to be like.
And the light bulb industry lobbyists will, I'm sure, agree with you.
I just think sometimes the implementation of like the auto headlights is just not. It's not good because it's not allowing the driver to be. They're not allowing the driver to be really aware of what's going on. And like I don't know, sometimes it'll be like 4:30. It's dusk. It's the winter time. It's starting to get dark out. Your car should be smarter than you, and it should know, oh, maybe we should turn our headlights on.
Well, maybe that's what we need to make standard is auto headlights.
Well, that's what we're saying.
They're kind of are.
Well, they're not standard, but they're pretty close to standard.
Well, if
but
you
the
look at the
systems
lower,
aren't the same because, like, I was actually going to go into
there's
earlier.
no actual specification of when they come on.
Kia, for example, on our Carnival. It's super sensitive, so like you'll be driving and around the time Jess was talking, you can go through like a shaded tree area, and they're constantly popping on and off, on and off, on and off, and that's really the only manufacturer that I've noticed that it's been that sensitive.
Not to mention, there are times when you're like sitting in traffic in a parking lot or whatever, right, where you're getting out of a concert and you're just sitting in traffic. Do you really need hundreds of cars with their headlights on when they're not moving anywhere, just blinding people? That frustrates me. I love being able to turn the headlights off.
That's a good point.
I think
that's
just in general, I don't think anybody's happy with headlights in this country. I think. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because, we're still way behind the Europeans as far as headlight technology, even with the latest updates.
Yeah.
Well, that, again, one of the most interesting rant and raves that we've had in a long time. Got a lot of discussion out of everybody.
We really could.
We should just do a whole rant podcast.
Well, I think we should. Thanks, everybody, here in our Studio C in MotorWeek World headquarters, our two-wheeling reporter Brian Robinson, our over-the-edge reporter Greg Carlos, our digital producer and producer of the podcast today, Jessica Ray, and our writer Alex Kellum for going down the list with me of the 2023 MotorWeek Drivers' Choice Awards. And thank you all out there for listening to our podcast today. And if you're wondering what time MotorWeek can be seen in your local public television stations, like I said, go over to our website, motorweek.org, click on the tab About the Show, station listings, and then enter your zip code for the day and times in your area. Or hop over to our cable partner at mavtv.com for their schedule of MotorWeek. They air us several times during the week. You can also stream MotorWeek episodes for free on your mobile device or streaming box by downloading the PBS app, available at your device's app store or streaming channel library. All of the individual road test and feature segments are also available at youtube.com/MotorWeek. In other words, folks, if you've got a screen, you can watch MotorWeek. I want to thank our audio engineer, Jillian Cookman, our podcast producer, of course, Jessica Ray, and podcast creator, Bob Mixter. Everyone out there, till next time, I'm John Davis. For all of us, thanks for being a part of MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil, Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper, and TireRack.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.